Hi there, my name is Carina McEvoy and I run Emotional Therapy Centre in Gorey, County Wexford. I'm very happy to be able to bring to you today a talk on understanding and managing children's anxiety. This talk is actually part of the Parenting Today 2020 programme, which is brought to you by Wexford County Council Library Services and the CYPSC. So I myself am a qualified hypnotherapist, an NLP master. I've also studied CBT, child psychology, child NLP and child anger management. However, I really do think that the most important qualification I can bring to you today is my own experience of child, teen, young adult and parent anxiety. I have been in all those shoes. And in my teens, I guess, anxiety, it wasn't, there was nothing really known about anxiety going back 25 years ago, showing my age. But seriously, there was not really much known about anxiety. There was no places to go to. There was no advice for parents. So my anxiety really escalated into very long bouts of depression. I ended up having social phobia. I ended up having OCD. I couldn't pass a radiator without touching it. And also I actually had quite a severe addiction to self-harm. So in my early adulthood, I decided I just can't live like this anymore, and I ended up going and having my own therapy. So all of the therapies that I then went on to study and do now, they really helped me to take these big massive feelings and emotions and just be able to manage them so that they no longer managed me. So my past and my experiences really give me an understanding of what it's like to be an anxious child and an anxious teen. However, when I had children myself, my eldest became quite anxious. She was a very, very anxious child. She worried about everything and constantly had pains in her tummy and separation anxiety from me as well. And then I really had to look at anxiety from a different angle. I had to look at it from a parent's angle, but also from a parenting angle. And that's when I really decided to set up my own emotional therapy centre to practice, because I developed a very deep passion then to bring to you, the parents, what I know as an anxious child, having been an anxious child teen, but also as an anxious parent. All the information, all of the knowledge that I have gained throughout my life, throughout my studies, to bring this to you so that you can begin your own journey to help your child understand and manage their own anxiety, because that's actually the key here. It's like that lovely saying that I absolutely love. It's about preparing the child for the road and not the road for the child. So a lot of the techniques that I actually use in my practice, I have since published in my children's book, Sometimes I Worry, How About You? And also the adult book, Sometimes My Child Worries, What Do I Do? But I really hope that the advice and the knowledge that I bring to you today can definitely be a start to help you to support your child. So before we talk about actually helping our child manage their anxiety, let's look at what anxiety actually is. So anxiety is actually really normal, natural, healthy, good emotion to have. And we all have anxiety. We have to have it. It's our biological response to danger, and it keeps us safe. So we do not want our children to get rid of their anxiety. We just want to help them manage their anxiety and help them to be able to feel anxiety in an appropriate situation. So let's talk about the body sensations that your children and your teens, and in fact maybe even yourself, feel when anxiety kicks in. These body sensations are all coming from that fight or flight response, going way back to the caveman day. So way back to the hunter-gatherers, when they were going out searching for their food. It was a dangerous activity because the animal that they were hunting could turn around and start hunting them, and they're then in danger. So they had to very quickly make a decision whether they were going to fight, if they could, off the danger, or if not, if they were going to run away as fast as they could. So anxiety is actually this response. It is the fight or flight response. Okay, so in both those scenarios, whether we're going to fight or flight, we need energy and we need it now. So the body is flooded with this energy to be able to get away from the danger. So the sensations that your child or your teen may feel are these changes happening. So the first thing that happens when we are faced with danger and we go into fight or flight is the blood actually rushes from the tummy all the way up to the brain. And that gives us that pain sensation or that butterfly sensation, or some people say it's like a knot in the tummy sensation. The blood rushes up to the brain. The brain says, okay, lungs, we need to do something here. So we need lots of energy. So we need lots and lots of oxygen. So our lungs then begin taking in lots of oxygen. Okay. So when we breathe in through our lungs, we are not releasing enough carbon dioxide and our body feels really, really tense and really stressed out as it is. So we take in lots of oxygen. Our brain says, okay, heart, we need to get this oxygen to our hands to fight or to our feet to run away, and we need it now. So our heart starts to beat very, very fast. Then our body says, okay, body, our brain says to our body, we need to keep cool here so that we can, we're not going to overheat, so begin to sweat. So you'll notice if you're anxious, your palms will feel quite clammy as well. There are lots of other sensations and lots of changes that go on in the body, but the most common ones that your child may complain about or may say to you is the pain in the tummy or the butterfly feeling, the breathing in through the chest or not being able to breathe, or the heart going crazy or feeling sticky and clammy. Now, the reason why I think it's really important to explain those sensations to the kids is because when the child is anxious about something, that kickstarts the body sensation because it's kickstarting the fight or flight. And if we don't know what these are, if you have like a 6-7-year-old child who does not know what that pain is, who thinks that they're going to die because their heart is beating so fast, that starts a second cycle of anxiety. So now they have the original cycle of whatever it is they're worried about, going to school or going to a new club, which starts the second cycle of, oh my God, now I'm going to die. So if we can remove the fear of the second cycle, then we can concentrate on the first one. And in fact, when we remove the fear of the second one and the child understands what's happening and why it's so normal and so okay to feel, that can actually lower the cycle of the first one. So they're the body sensations, and that's what's actually happening. But in today's society, there's no woolly mammoths chasing after us, and we're pretty well looked after by our parents, and we really look after our kids. So danger is not all around us. Yet, within the last 30 years, anxiety has just escalated. So where is that coming from? Where is the threat? Where is the danger coming from? Well, it's actually coming from our thoughts, and it's coming from, I believe, just modern day society. Modern day society is breeding anxiety and it's breeding stress because we are so busy. Our calendars, our diaries are full with school, homework, work, extracurricular activities for the kids. It's all rush, rush, rush. It's go, go, go. There's no chance to actually just sit down, relax and chill out. And if there is, we're watching the news, we're watching it on TV, in the car, we're listening to it, it's on our iPads, newspapers. And the news is 24/7, and it's kind of this real doom and gloom society of all the bad things that are happening, which is leading us to really overparent our kids. And that's taking away a little bit of their confidence and their belief in themselves. Even though I know I'm a parent myself and all I want to do is wrap my kids up so that they'll never get hurt. But unfortunately, that takes away their power. We're also living in a society that's dominated by screens, by being constantly entertained. We're living in a society that believes failing and losing and making mistakes is seen as a bad thing. And teens particularly are really anxious about making mistakes, making social mistakes, the idea of having to be perfect, like having filters on Facebook or social media. That's so important to teens now, because we cannot in this society have flaws or anything like that. I could really go on about modern society and how it's breeding anxiety for another hour, but I won't. I'll save you. So let's look now in the next section about what you can do as a parent to help your teen or your anxious child. So now I've talked a little bit about anxiety, what anxiety actually is, the body sensations and the symptoms, and why it's so prevalent in today's society. Let's look at the big question, why we're all here. And that is, how can we help our children with their anxiety? And remember, the key is to help the child with their anxiety, so that when they're away from us, they have the skills to be able to emotionally regulate that emotion for themselves. So when I was writing the book and coming up with the course content for my parental courses and workshops, I came up with a formula, a mnemonic to make it easy for us, I suppose, to apply all of the things that I'm going to tell you now in supporting the children. So that is LEVES, L-E-V-E-S, and let's go through that now. So the L stands for listen. And listen to actually listen. Because I think sometimes as parents, when our kids come to us with a problem or an issue, instead of listening, we go ahead and we try and figure out how will we solve that problem for them. So listen means to actually just listen. And listening to a kid involves our full body language. Eye contact for smaller kids. Teenagers don't like eye contact, so it's more side by side. Like car journeys are really good for teens. Smaller kids, it's about the eye contact, and it's about the body language, and it's about full focus and attention for them. And what that does for them is it really gives them a sense of self-worth, because subconsciously they're going, whoa, I'm being really listened to here, I'm getting full attention. And that's really, really good for them, and it really validates them as a person. Also, listening, what it does for the child also is, when you have something on your mind, but when you talk about it, you get it off your chest, you get it out in the open. So you're allowing the child that space to actually just get it off their chest. And sometimes that's all children need. So listening is very, very powerful. So the E then stands for empathy. So empathy is really important, I think, as well, because empathy means you're not alone. And when you're not alone, it can give you that bit of bravery that you need to face the problem. And sometimes that's all children need also. So empathy can come in the form of just two very simple words. And that's just by saying, you know what, I understand. So the two important words, I understand. You may not understand exactly why your child is anxious or worried, but you do understand what it's like to be anxious and worried. So you can even be honest and say, look, I don't understand why you're worried about this, but I understand what it's like to be worried. So let's see what we can do about this together. Okay? So I understand. The V then stands for validate. So validation comes in again, two very simple words, and they are, that's okay. So I think in the society, when we grow up, we think that certain emotions are not so good to feel, or we don't want to feel certain emotions like anger, guilt, anxious, fear. But they're really normal, healthy emotions to feel, and it's okay to feel them. And when we know it's okay to feel them, it gives us that sense of relief. So when your child comes to you and says, you know what, I'm really worried about this, or I'm really anxious about this, by validating that feeling, you're giving them that space to just feel that bit of a relief and to feel normal and to feel like they're natural. So you just say, that's okay. And it is okay. And even if it's something like anger, it's okay to feel it. Anger, like it's okay to feel anger. So the feeling is okay. It's what we do with the feeling that really counts. So we have listen, empathize, validate. So the second E in the LEVES formula then is to explain. And I've explained this in the last section. as well. So kids love to understand what's going on, and explaining things to them in their age appropriate language, in an age appropriate way, to an age appropriate extent, is important also. And they will appreciate your honesty, and they'll appreciate you being honest and explaining things to them, because kids don't like to be fobbed off. And sometimes kids will go away, and if they don't understand something, they will make up in their head whatever it is. And sometimes the situation that they've made up in their head is way worse than what the reality of the situation is. So honest, open communication in their language, as appropriate as you can, is really good for them. Okay, so that's the listen, empathize, validate, explain. So now there's 2 S's at the end. One stands for strategies and the other stands for skills. So strategies, these are the strategies that we will put in place to help the child to actually bring the emotion down at the time. So like calming strategies. So a really good one that I use for myself, and I would teach my kids and kids who come into my practice, is a very simple one. So this one is just belly breathing. And belly breathing, because when we get anxious, our body prepares to do the fight or flight, and we go from breathing from our belly into our chest. We are just reversing that. So with a small child, or you can do this, with even a teenager, okay? It's a really nice thing to do, actually, because what I would recommend that you do is teach this in quite a formal way to start off with. So at night time, have the child or the teen lie down on their bed, put on some really nice music. You can rub their feet with lavender if you like, because that will help them sleep. And lavender is really good for sleep, and sleep is really good for anxiety. And then for a small child, I would get them to get their favourite teddy. A teen, they can use their hands or even get a book or something like that. And I would have, I'm going to explain this to you in the same way I would for a small child, okay? So I would get the child to lie down and put their favourite teddy on their belly. And I would explain to them that we are going to move teddy up and down by just breathing. So ask them to breathe in, and when they breathe in, they're going to breathe all the way into their belly. And when they do that, their belly is going to rise up and teddy is going to be pushed out. So breathe in, teddy pushes out. So when we breathe in, our belly pushes out. And when we breathe out, teddy goes back in again. So our belly goes in. So breathe in, teddy goes out, breathe out, teddy goes in. Of course, I'm using my blanket here. So breathe in, teddy goes out, breathe out, teddy goes in. So I would just get them used to that feeling of breathing into their belly. Now we breathe into our belly all the time, or breathe into our chest all the time. And breathing is such an automatic thing that we do. And when you think about it, it's kind of like, what am I doing? You get mixed up. So I would just spend some time really getting them used to breathing into their belly, and call it belly or tummy breathing. And then I would go from there to just doing quite informally. So throughout the day, just check in with them, check into where they are breathing. When they're really relaxed, if they're sitting down watching a film or something like that, just check in. Where are you breathing into now? I'm breathing into my belly. Where are you breathing into? Oh, you're breathing into your belly too. That's really good. See how well you're able to do that. And the idea of that is, when they do get really anxious, they will say to you, I can't breathe into my belly, but I just can't. And then you can say, of course you can. But remember, you are going to model being calm and relaxed, because kids will look at you to see, is this situation really dangerous? Is this something to really worry about? And if you're calm and relaxed, then they will subconsciously know, right, well, they're okay. So maybe it's okay. So it's just a matter of them calming down then. So you can say to them in a calm and relaxed manner, of course you can breathe into your tummy. Weren't you breathing into your tummy yesterday when we were watching that film? I know you can. So we're just going to concentrate and breathe into our tummy now. And there's a couple of ways you can do that. So let's look at the smaller kids. So like preschool kids or junior or senior infant kids. So you can do the birthday breathing. So we can hold up our 5 hands Okay, five hands. Okay, 5 fingers. If you have 5 hands, I don't know what to say to you. So hold up your 5 fingers, okay? And we're going to sing happy birthday to each finger. And after we sing happy birthday to each finger, we're going to blow it out. But of course, we blow from our belly. So we blow from our belly, sing happy birthday, blow out the candle from our belly, and do this with each finger. And the idea of doing that 5 times is when we feel that wave of emotion, that wave of emotion actually only really lasts for about a minute to a minute and a half. So by the time we have sang happy birthday and blown out the 5 fingers, that wave of emotion will have calmed down a little bit, which will have brought up our sense of being able to think clearly about the situation. So for the older primary school kids and for secondary school kids, I would just say to them to do the 4x4 breathing. So that's very simple. So you breathe in for 4, hold for 4, out for 4, and do that 4 times. Now that's something they can do noisily and do quite obviously, or they can do it in a classroom just very simply. So in for 4, hold for 4, out for 4, do it 4 times. And by the time they will have done that 4 times, that wave of emotion will have come down. And their sense of logic or their sense of being able to think clearly about whatever it is will have come back up again. Okay, so let's look at some skills that we can introduce or really develop in our kids to help them with resilience and being able to regulate their emotions. So one of them that I think would be really good is to be able to reframe situations. And that just basically means to be able to just put a different spin on it, be able to think differently about it, be able to look at the bright side. And there's not always a bright side, or there's not always a positive side to situations, but there's always a more helpful way to look at things. So this is something as parents and guardians you can model, and you can model it out loud. So say, for example, you are due to, I don't know, go out for a meal and your babysitter cancels. You can say out loud, oh, I feel really disappointed that my babysitter's cancelled. I can't go out for my meal now, but you know what? I can stay home and watch that film I've been wanting to watch for a long time. So you've turned that situation into a different situation. Okay, you've said you're disappointed. It's okay to be disappointed, but what are you going to do instead? So you can model this at home yourself, and then when your child is going through something, or for any emotion, you can help them reframe that situation. So just to think differently about it. And remember, our emotions actually come from how we think. So if we change how we think, then we change how we feel. And if we change how we feel, then we change how we act or how we respond to that situation. So that's number 1 skill, to reframe. Number 2 is to help them develop the skill, the very important skill of problem solving. So this goes back to that saying, I love my sayings, but this goes back to that saying of give a man a fish and he'll eat for 1 day, but teach a man to fish and he will eat for a lifetime. And it's the same with problem solving. It's about helping our kids come to the solution themselves and not giving them the solution. So it's about developing in the child the skill of problem solving. And when we do that, no matter where they are, they'll be able to problem solve their own issues. And that is the number 1 resilience skill that kids can gain. So how we do that is we sit down with them and we ask them, what do you think you should do in this situation? What solutions do you think you could come up with? You can do that for the smallest of children. Even if they're trying to put the different shapes in the different holes, you, instead of saying you use this one, you ask them, which one do you think you could use? So it's basically about supporting them by asking them the good questions. What do you think you could do? Brainstorm and encourage them to come up with all the solutions, even if they're the most ridiculous things you've ever heard. And then you can go through each solution and you can pick them and you can say, well, what would be the good thing about doing that? Oh, would there be any bad things about doing that? And what do you think? And you can influence by asking, do you think it would be a good idea to, ring that person, or do you think it would be a really good idea to study this first? Or, you can ask them, do you think it would be a good idea, without saying study that first, or whatever it is. Okay, so you are influencing and encouraging them by asking the good questions, and you're helping them the skill of problem solving. And one of the biggest things in problem solving is, if it doesn't work out the first time, you just go back and try something else. Because you know what? Failure, there's no such thing as failure. Failure is the first attempt in learning. Failure just shows us how to do something differently the next time. And that's something that I think we need to reframe. Speaking of reframing, for everybody, is that failure is not a bad thing. It just shows us how to do something differently the next time. So in our problem solving process, if the solution doesn't work out, that's okay. We can just try a different one. Okay, so that's reframing, problem solving. Also, I think planning is a really good skill to have when you have a tendency to feel anxious. So we can sit down before something happens, before an event, or before something is happening for the child that they're quite anxious about. Because anxiety is it's a future-based emotion, and it's something that we tend to be worried about that's going to happen or could happen. So sitting down with the child, and it's a bit like problem solving. It's about sitting down and saying, okay, if this happens, what's the plan? What are we going to do? What would you do? And helping them figure out what the plan would be. So for example, if you're going to, a big match, okay, and you know that they're quite anxious about getting lost, sit down. If you get lost at this match on Sunday, what do you do? And let them come up with the answers. Let them come up with the solutions and come up with the plan, ensuring that's a good plan and that's a plan that will actually work, and influencing them into the answers if they're not coming up with the good answers, but helping them plan for things that may cause them anxiety. So we've got reframing, planning, problem solving. I think it's important to mention confidence, building up confidence in our kids. And one way we build up confidence in our kids is to let them be independent. Let them do it for themselves. So that can be for the littlest of kids, letting them dress themselves, letting them get their own drink of water. So if in your kitchen your glasses are up high and you always get your child a glass of water, get plastic beakers, put them down in a small drawer, and encourage them to get their own water. Have a little jug in the fridge that they can have if they can't reach the tap. Allow kids or encourage kids to pay for their own stuff. Hand over the money, say thank you, get the change back, and to ask for things themselves. To put the money in the machine to pay for the parking, to do chores at home. All these things really increase our kids' confidence, and that's something that really helps them to feel resilient in the face of adversities. Okay, so there's the formula. So listen, leaves, listen, empathize, validate, explain, then strategies and skills. So that is some advice and information on how we can help our kids manage their anxiety. In the next section, I'll be answering some questions that were emailed into the library. So I will talk to you then. So I'm just going to go through some questions that were emailed into the County Wexford Library Services. So thank you for emailing in these questions, and I hope that I can give you some advice and some help with them. So here we go. Here's the first one. Hi, I was wondering if Carina could address this issue. My 9-year-old son has huge anxiety around buttons. We can't say the word or wear buttons. He can't eat if someone comes near him wearing buttons and has gagged up his food on occasions. He flips out if his nanny comes in with buttons on and runs away and won't come near her. It can be a big issue in warmer weather in school as they all wear polo shirts and take their jumpers off. He has come home not having eaten all day because of this. We're at our wits' end and don't know what to do. Many things. Well, thank you for your email. I'm sure you are at your wit's end, because it sounds like it really is affecting your son's life. He's going to school, he's not eating all day because of the buttons. So a fear of buttons may not be a common fear, but it falls under the title, I suppose, of specific phobia. I would have to speak to you a little bit more to find out about, where the actual fear is coming from. So, for example, is it a fear of germs of the buttons? Was there a traumatic experience, or did he witness a traumatic experience of maybe someone choking on a button in the past? Or is it a textural thing? He doesn't like the texture. Is it the fact that they disgust him more so than a fear? But regardless of what it is, there is hope, okay? So at home, you can do the things that I spoke about in the last section. You can provide the listening ear, the validation, the empathy around all of that. And that lets your child know that it's okay. It's okay to have that fear. We all have fears and phobias, and it's okay. So that he doesn't feel that it's strange or he's strange or anything like that. It's okay to have that fear, and it's okay to be anxious. Now, the other thing is, the other side, the other part of the help is, I do think that maybe it would be a good idea to get some professional help in terms of going to see a therapist, only because it's a specific fear and something that may need that little bit of extra. Okay, so there are a couple of therapies that might work here. So one of them would be a CBT, or behavioural therapy, and that would be the likes of exposure therapy. So exposing your son to the buttons and helping him work through those anxiety feelings at each stage. That's one. Number two is actually an exposure therapy called flooding. Flooding is where he's exposed to, a huge amount of whatever he's afraid of. So for me, I actually went through this a couple of years ago. If I just show you a video or a photograph now, I was afraid of spiders. So I decided to do the flooding exposure therapy myself and actually hold a tarantula. So for me, that was absolutely massive. But again, I would do this with the guidance of a therapist. Also in hypnotherapy, which I practice as well, hypnotherapy is wonderful. Hypnotherapy is actually where we allow the client to go into a really relaxed state of mind. And within that relaxed state of mind, we can give different suggestions to their subconscious to reframe how they think about whatever that thing is that they're afraid of. And that works really, really well. And kids respond so well to hypnosis, basically because they've such a wonderful imagination. And also NLP is really good. NLP is neuro-linguistic programming, and that can provide quite a few really good techniques, again, to reframe how he thinks about the buttons. So I wish you all the best with that. If you want some more information, please don't hesitate to email me. And I think the most important thing there that you can do for your child is just to validate and empathize. Okay, thank you. Oh, and by the way, Steve Jobs, he actually had the exact same thing. He had a fear of buttons. And that's how we have the iPhone. We have the iPhone because it's the one rectangular flat screen, and there's no buttons on it because he had a fear of buttons. So there you go. You can tell your son that. Okay, so the next question then is, hi Carina, I have a 2.5-year-old boy and he has become very anxious socially, and I am seeing and hearing this quite a bit at the moment, especially with kids getting back out after isolation after COVID. But this one started last winter when he started to get very distressed when going into people's houses, unfamiliar buildings, appointments, etc. I tried to keep bringing him places, but it only got worse. Lockdown has made things so much harder for him. He gets so anxious about different people and different places. I have tried so many different things to help him, but he gets so afraid. Everyone keeps telling me he's so young and he will grow out of it, but it only seems to be getting worse. I would love to be able to help him with this. He's due back in creche in August, and I know this will help him when he gets back into a routine, but I'm so nervous about upcoming events. He is due to have a small operation in the next 6 months, And next May we are due to fly abroad for my sister's wedding. I don't know how he is going to cope with staying in hospital or boarding a plane. Again, thank you so much for emailing me in your question, and I do sympathise with you because again, it can feel very, very stressful. And that is one thing I do say, that when our child has anxiety, it's not just in the child, it's in the home. It affects us all. So again, with in the last section, I would say that you can help your child by again listening, and you can listen to a 2.5-year-old. Just bring them up onto the counter, again, the eye level, the validating, the empathizing. I think here one of the key things is to actually role model and model the calm and the relaxed attitude to going out, getting back out there into life. So one thing that I just picked up on here was the fact that you yourself, said you were feeling so nervous about upcoming events. So kids will pick up on that nervous energy. Even if you're saying, it's okay, it's okay, it's okay, without wanting to actually let your child know that you're nervous, they're so clever, they will pick up on it. They will pick up on the fact that you are feeling nervous about this. So subconsciously and even consciously, they'll say, well, hang on, if my mammy's feeling really nervous or really worried about me going to creche or going into the hospital or going on a plane, then there's a reason. Because remember, they will look up to us. They will look up to see what we are doing, and they will pick it up. Actually, our communication, only 7% of our communication comes across in our words. So if we say to our children, it's okay, don't worry about it, it's okay, the way we say it, our tone, our pitch, our body language, that actually communicates so much more to somebody else than the 7%, the words. So I reckon he is probably picking up a little bit on your nervous energy. So one thing that you can do on top of the empathizing, validating, is to really just work on your own feeling of being anxious, work on your own nervous energy around this, and learn some of those strategies for yourself just to bring down that anxious feeling, and then model to him that it's okay. Going back to school is okay. Yes, because you're going to go into explaining, remember? Yes, we haven't been there in a while. Yes, it'll take some time to get back into things, but it will be okay. And even if on the day he's crying or whatever, just model the fact that you know he will be okay. You trust in him, you trust in the people, and you trust in yourself that you wouldn't leave him there if you thought he was going to get hurt or if he was not going to be treated well. So you're trusting in those three things, and you know it will be okay. So model the fact that you are okay with it, that you are calm, and that you are relaxed. I think you really hit the nail on the head yourself here. You said that when he goes back, it will be really good for him because he's getting back into the routine. And for all the people out there who are worried about their kids going back after this isolation period, there is an adjustment period for all of us, not just our kids. And that is okay to go through that adjustment period. Going back to work and any time of change in our life gives us that little bit of, nervous sensation or a little bit of uncertainty. So it's okay to feel that. So we can explain that to our kids even before they go back to school, that it's okay. I expect you would feel that. I expect I'm going to feel it too. Do you know what? I'm going to feel it and get on with it anyway because I know it's going to be okay. So by saying that, that the routine is really going to help, you're dead right. The routine will really, really help. So I would actually work on getting him back into a little bit of a routine now. I would work on getting into a good sleep routine at night time, maybe getting him up. If he's going to be going to creche at 9 o'clock, I would work on, although he's a toddler, he probably gets up way before 9 o'clock, but I would work on getting him into a good sleep routine now and into a good nutrition routine, water, all of that type of stuff. I think the main one here, however, is that, you model the fact that you feel calm and relaxed and that you have every confidence that he's going to be okay. And with like the last lady, exposure therapy. It could be a good idea to maybe start driving to the creche now. If you can walk to it, but if not, maybe just drive to it and see, oh, remember, that's where we're going, that's where it is, this is where I'll park the car. Start, next month maybe buy the lunch boxes and little water beaker for him. Start getting him excited and exposed to the idea that he's going back. Start having little play dates, if he knows people from creche, little play dates with those people, or Zoom calls or whatever it is, talking about the teacher, and maybe talking and exposing your language and the language to the fact that he will be going back, but doing it in a really calm and relaxed manner. Okay, so I hope that helps. Thank you so much for listening to the video. I hope it has given you some advice. I hope it has given you some information that will help you on your journey to help your kids. And if you want any further information on my books, on my courses, workshops, or even the private practice, please don't hesitate to contact me. I will leave my details at the end of the video. And again, thank you. Goodbye.